Right, saints, if you don't mind taking your seats and settling in. Making their list, checking twice. If you can put your phones away at this time, and if you are anywhere in this front half of the gym, it's really helpful if you just turn them off all the way. All right, we're going to jump right in. So, first of all, God's good? All the time. All the time. So as we gather here today, we're going to just pause for a moment, and as we welcome our speaker for our third Tom Talk, Mrs. Murphy, we're going to offer a prayer for ourselves and, of course, for Mrs. Murphy. So join me in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Lord God, we thank you so much for being part of a community where we can come together and share our stories, to hear from others, to learn outside of the classroom, as well as the great education we get inside the classroom. I ask you to open our hearts and minds today, that as we hear from Mrs. Murphy, that we're able to learn more about ourselves and our community as we learn from her and with her. We just ask that you give her a spirit of wisdom that she shares with us, and just continue to pour out your blessings on her and each of us today. In the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. So, if you guys want to just take your seats and settle in, and then join me in welcoming Senora Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. Adams. So the theme of this year's Tom Talks is to share a word with you that has significance to us, that inspires us, motivates us, kind of makes us tick. But before I tell you what my word is, I'd like to share a story with you that I think will help demonstrate why this word matters so much to me. So there was this 25-year-old woman who was living in New York City. She was working as a Catholic school teacher. She and her husband were about to celebrate their one-year wedding anniversary, and she was 7 months pregnant with her first baby. So it was mid-June, so she was looking forward to summer vacation like we all do. And this particular summer would be extra exciting because her friends had a baby shower planned for her. She was looking forward to setting up the nursery for her new baby. So there's lots to be looking forward to. So she and her husband on Sunday afternoon, early evening, they went to a friend's house with another couple for dinner. And after dinner, they were crossing the street to go back to their cars when, out of nowhere, a car came flying and hit them. The car actually hit 3 of them, but the pregnant woman bore the full impact. And she was sent flying into the air. She landed on her stomach. 7 months pregnant, she landed on her stomach on the pavement. So she was in rough shape. She had broken every bone in her body. She had compound fractures, so legs. She had bones sticking out of her legs. She had broken her pelvis, her arm, her jaw, she had head trauma. So she was a mess, so much so that when the police came, they did a chalk outline around her because they fully expected that this was going to be a vehicular homicide case, that she wasn't going to make it. So the ambulance came, the EMTs worked hard to try to stabilize her as they rushed her to the hospital. Her pulse was faint, and there was no fetal heartbeat. So as she came out of surgery and she became alert, the first question she asked was, "How's the baby? Did the baby make it?" And so the doctor had to break it to her that no, the baby hadn't survived the accident. So she was obviously devastated. And the plan was then to remove the baby, the dead baby, from her. But she was too weak. She had to recover from the other surgeries. So they had to give it a few days. So in those few days, of course, every day they checked her vital signs, and they checked to see if there was any fetal activity, fetal heartbeat, and there was nothing. So on the 5th day, the day that they had planned to remove the dead baby from her, they checked vitals again, and they picked up a heartbeat. They heard a fetal heartbeat. So the woman got her hopes up. She was so happy. But the doctors warned her, don't get your hopes up. This baby has been through so much trauma from the accident, but then also from the surgeries, from x-rays, from anesthesia. I mean, essentially everything you're not supposed to expose an unborn baby to. So they said, that there's just been so much trauma that the odds of this baby being born healthy are really slim. In fact, there's a pretty high probability that if it even makes it, it's going to have some pretty significant mental and physical disabilities. So she prayed. She had nothing else to do, right? She's bedridden, she's in the ICU, so she prayed. And she said novenas, and she made deals with God. Have you ever done that? God, please help me pass Mr. Tinney's test. If you do that, I'll stop swearing, or I'll give up some other bad habit. Like, please, God. So you make a deal with God. And then when you pass the test, you keep your end of the deal. So she made deals with God, and she prayed. So 2 months later, that baby was born. That baby was me. And that was my mom. So I was born big. I was almost 10 pounds. So this poor woman had a broken pelvis, 2 broken legs, and she gets this bruiser of a baby. So it's almost 10 pounds. And I had all parts intact. I was healthy, seemingly. This has been a good excuse to have in my back pocket that right when I fall short of expectations. Come on, I was hit by a car before I was even born. Give me a break. Go easy on me, as Adele would say, right? So I was healthy. So the babies couldn't believe it. So they called me the miracle baby because they just couldn't believe I was fine after all of that. So this is my mom on her wedding day. So this was about a year before the accident. And there could have been a few possible outcomes to the story. I easily could have died, in which case my 2 kids, Connor and Kieran, would never have been born. And my brother Brian, my mother easily could have died, been killed by that driver, so my brother Brian wouldn't be born, so his son Cade wouldn't be sitting in the bleachers with us today, and Cade's 2 sisters wouldn't be around, and my sister Shane and her son wouldn't be alive. So the ripple effect of my mom's prayers was pretty significant. And my mom could never have walked again. That was a really real possibility, was because the injuries she had suffered to her legs were so significant that they were afraid she would never walk again. And I could have been born with physical and mental disabilities that certainly would have changed the path of my life. So my mom's prayers had a ripple effect and helped us, her prayers, her faith, her unwavering trust in God's plan, pulled us both through a situation that was stacked pretty heavily against us. So this is my mom holding me, and you can see in the background of this picture my mom's crutch. So she said she used to carry me like a football because she needed her other leg to maneuver with the crutch. So you think of how tenderly and gingerly new babies are carried. And I'm being manhandled like a football. But she said I never cried or fussed about it. She always said that she thought we had this understanding. We had just been through this trauma together. And so we were kind of cutting each other a break and knew we were both doing our best and had both become a bit more resilient as a result. So my word is pray. My mom instilled in us at a very young age the habit of prayer. In this picture, I imagine I was praying my hair would grow. Those home haircuts that my mom used to give are the reason I've had long hair most of my life. We had a family bedtime prayer that we would say, and at a young age, and it was, I've changed it over the years, but I continued that with my own kids. It was kind of the basic framework for the prayer that I taught my own children. And it's kind of what I say today, still, to this day, it's the same structure of the prayer that she had taught us. I also show you this picture, though, because at the foot of my bed, there's a blanket, a pink and blue crib blanket. It's the only baby gift my mom received when she was in the hospital. Because nobody believed there was going to be a baby. So nobody came bearing gifts for a baby that likely wasn't going to be born. And then what? My mom would have to come home from the hospital with all these baby gifts and no baby. So, but this one woman my mom worked with, her name was Mary Willius, she crocheted this crib blanket and brought it to the hospital for my mom. And it meant so much to my mother because it meant somebody else believed the baby was going to make it. So I've had this blanket in my room my whole life because I know how much it meant to my mom. And for me, it's also a good reminder of hope and of the impact of acts of kindness. So let's make a deal. I can still hear my mom saying, I'll make a deal with you, Erin. If you rake the front lawn, I'll bring you to Kim's house. You know, if you do this, I'll do that. So she always kept her end of the deal, and she fully expected us to do the same. So I told you that when she was in the hospital, she made a deal with God. So the deal was that if he let the baby be born healthy and let her walk again and be able to live long enough to raise that baby, that she would be the best, most devoted mother she could possibly be. And she was. She was fully committed to her role as a mom and a positive role model, not just to me, but to my younger brother and sister. To my brother Brian and to my sister Shane. She was fully involved in our school life. She was involved in our church. We grew up going to St. Teresa's in Rye. She was involved in town. She made sure that we were always able to participate in any of our activities and hobbies and sports, took fun little family trips. And she also worked for about 10 years as the 8th grade language arts teacher at St. Patrick's School. So she had a positive impact on a lot of people and a lot of aspects of her life. And she was there for me as I navigated those early days as a new mom, with support and wisdom, comfort, and babysitting. And she also helped me learn how to let go of some of the small stuff and to just soak in the joys of motherhood. 33 years after that car accident, after she was hit by that car, she was diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer. I couldn't believe it, but she was fit, she was active, she was healthy, and she was just such a good person. It just seemed so unfair. Why my mom? She just has so much still left to offer everybody. I couldn't make sense of it, and it felt so unfair to me. But to her, she never felt sorry for herself. She never asked why me. Instead, she reminded me of the deal she had made with God. And he had kept his end of the deal, right? So he had seen that baby, me, grow up, and my brother and sister. And she had received the gift of being a grandmother. She had met my son, Connor, and my daughter, Karen. So she had been given more than she had even asked for. So instead of feeling sorry for herself with that diagnosis, she had a sense of gratitude for the life that she had been able to live, that so easily could have been taken away 33 years prior. She loved being a grandmother. She picked my son up from school. She taught my son how to fish. That's his first little fish that he caught. So she was as engaged in being a grandmother as she was in raising her kids. So at first, when I first heard of my mom's diagnosis, I prayed. And my prayer was that the doctors were wrong, or that when they went in there and performed the operation, that they'd realized that the cancer hadn't spread as far as they had thought, or that we'd find some miracle cure, or that she'd beat the odds once again. But as I prayed, I realized that my mindset was starting to shift, and I was recalibrating. And instead, my prayer became that we'd have more time, so that my kids would remember her, and that I would find a way to help my 3- and 5-year-old navigate their way through this loss and through the grief, to explain it to them. So we made the most of time. We did have more time, and we enjoyed times at the lake in the previous picture, and then Florida together. We had all sorts of fun little outings, and blueberry picking and apple picking. And that Halloween, when all of her friends were princesses, fairies, and mermaids, my daughter was a doctor. Dr. Kieran Eileen. Eileen is my mom's name. Dr. Kieran Eileen, and she got full use out of that Halloween costume, because every time that we went to visit my mom to help her on a daily basis, Kieran would put on her scrubs, and she'd pack up her medical bag filled with scented lotions and warm fuzzy socks, and she would rub the lotions into my mom's arms at her bedside, and her feet, put the fuzzy socks on and comfort and soothe her. And my son Connor would sometimes bring his fiddle, and he would play an original I Love May May hit, and Kieran would sing along. And those times together at my mom's bedside, as sad as this time was in my life, are among my most cherished memories. One day on our drive to Stratton to see my mom, the sun was setting and there was a particular pink patch in the sunset. And so 3-year-old Kieran was looking out the window and she said, "Hey Mom, look, the angels are getting ready for May May in heaven. They're painting her bedroom pink." And so to this day, every time I see an especially pink patch in the sky at sunset, I think of my mom, I think of Kieran's sweet observation, and I think of my mom's bedroom in heaven. And 3 months after my mom died, the kids and I were at the beach having a picnic, and it was a windy day, which was kind of annoying. We were trying to eat sandwiches, and the towels are blowing up, and sand's everywhere. But my kids put their faces up into the wind, facing up at the sky, and they said, "Mom, Maymay's blowing us kisses from heaven." So I realized that day at the beach that God had answered my prayers. He had helped me find a way to explain to my 3- and 5-year-old what was happening with Maymay and guide them through that grief and the loss, that they could see it in a really beautiful way, which helped me too. And he had given us more time. We had almost twice the amount of time that the doctors first predicted, and my kids do remember her. So my prayers were answered. Hug like you mean it is something my mom used to say. Give her a hug and she'd be like, "Come on, hug me like you mean it." So when I saw this frame, I had to have it, and this picture seemed like the perfect fit for it, the mom sandwich. So my mom, in addition to teaching me to pray, taught me to be present in the moment, to be genuine, to hug like I mean it. She taught me about integrity and keeping my end of the deal. She showed me what perseverance and devotion, loyalty, and grace look like. And she taught me to have a sense of humor and to be able to laugh at myself, which has certainly helped me along the path of life. So about a year after my mom died, I went through a divorce. My kids were 4 and 6 years old, which is about how old they were in that middle picture. And so raising them on my own from that point, the middle picture to the 2 side pictures, which are their senior years in high school, was not an easy path. But the qualities that my mom had instilled in me, my ability to laugh at some of the absurdities in life, and my daily habit of prayer helped to give me the strength, the confidence, and the reassurance that I needed. Yesterday during Mass, Father Andrew said something about giving our work 100%. And when we do that, we should feel proud. So I gave single parenting 100%, and I do feel proud of my work. So I have a daily habit of prayer every morning before I start my day, and every night before I fall asleep. It helps kind of quiet my mind so I can fall asleep. But I've learned that God doesn't always answer my original prayer, right? I don't always get what I originally wanted or asked for. We didn't get that cure for cancer. The doctors weren't wrong. It was a terminal diagnosis. But I always get what I need, right? I always get the strength to face difficult situations. I always get the insight that I need to better understand or to gain perspective or to recalibrate my thoughts. And I always get the peace that comes with knowing that I'm doing everything I can. So if you're not in the daily habit of prayer, give it a try. You know, you might find that it helps you organize your thoughts and gives you a little perspective or clears some of the clutter from your mind or quiets your mind so you can rest. And who knows, I mean, you have nothing to lose, right? And you might find that someday it even saves a life. And so from my perspective, that's worth a try. That's it. Thank you.
the entire community. Thank you for sharing your story, for sharing your witness of faith. And I know you already know this, but your mom must be beaming right now with pride at who you are and how you inspire each of us as she inspired you. So thank you so very much. And you can learn so much sitting here. You could also probably learn a lot about genetics, Mr. Holtzen, looking at these family photos too, right? And you look at 3 generations of these ladies and the resemblance there. I do have a couple of quick announcements, a reminder of expectations for tomorrow. It is a school day. Of course, you only need to be here if you're called to be here. The question